The situationship with Vikings edge rusher Za'Darius Smith continues to drag on into the offseason, and this is truly becoming a big-time test for the leadership of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. In year two, this is the first time that he's really had to dealt with a veteran who's champing at the bit for a new contract, is under contract, team leader, and how Kwesi deals with the situation is going to make some waves for how things potentially crop up in the future. And Za'Darius Smith, yes, did come in last year as a free agent, coming over from the greasy grimy Green Bay Packers, team leader right away, really bought into the Kirk Thuggins, and actually he was him and Chris Boyd were the ones that sort of instigated the Kirk Cousins chain, putting Christian Darrisaw's chain on his neck, put that ish on. That's right, man. And yes, through the first 9 games of the season, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, got dinged up against Buffalo, is what it is. And with Za'Darius, it's not so much about his level of play, even though he is on the wrong side of 30. It's the health, which has been an issue the last couple of years. And his contract is also a major issue. So in free agency last year, he signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Vikings with only $6.45 million guaranteed. Basically, it was a 1-year deal with some window dressing. He was trying to save some face after his deal with the Ravens in free agency fell apart. So now he's sort of painted himself into a corner. He signed a bad contract, and he greatly outperformed it last year, even though he dealt with injuries. And now he wants a new contract, or he wants to be traded. And the whole off-season stuff of him selling his house, him saying goodbye to the fans on Twitter and all that stuff, and reportedly looking for a trade. And during the draft, it came up again that the Vikings were potentially looking to move him during the draft, but that did not happen. So now we're back. Now we're back to phase 2 of voluntary off-season work. No Za'Darius Smith. And I know what you're saying. It's like, well, why do they have to show up? It's voluntary work. No. If you're a team leader, you show up. And also, veterans generally have large workout bonuses, and Za'Darius has $50K. So, I mean, guys, sure, they're multimillionaires, but you're not going to pass up on $50K for something that you're doing anyway. So Za'Darius is clearly sending a message that he wants to be traded. And respect, Kwesi has hedged his bet with what's going to happen with Za'Darius very well this offseason. Bringing in Marcus Davenport as a free agent, as a potential replacement if Za'Darius stuff doesn't work out. And there's 4 possible outcomes here. So Kwesi could play hardball with Za'Darius and just be like, hey, you literally signed a 3-year contract. You either play here or you play nowhere. And that's one way to go about it. I don't think that Kwesi's a hardliner per se, but that's also one route that he could go down. And then another option is extending Za'Darius. Well, either extending or revising his contract, and it could include some more incentives. It could include some more guaranteed money, because as of right now, he's due $9.45 million as his base salary in 2023, with $5.05 million of it already fully guaranteed. But of course, 9.45 is significantly less than some of the elite edge rushers, which Za'Darius is when he is healthy. And so they could revise the contract. They could lower his cap number. They could give him some more guaranteed money. They could toss in some incentives where if he stays healthy, he could be compensated like one of the more elite edge rushers in the game. Or they could trade him, right? So even though Za'Darius, like we said, wrong side of 30, dealing with injuries, and would likely need a new contract, he still would have some value out there. Especially teams are very hesitant to trade draft picks during the draft, but future draft picks are like, whatever, we're going to be good, so we'll deal a late 4th round pick for Za'Darius or in 2024, whatever. But if they traded him post June 1st, they would be able to save around $13.82 million in cap space with $1.67 million dead, because remember, that $5.05 million guaranteed would then go on the other team's books since it is base salary and not a bonus. And then with Za'Darius, it could come down to there's no trade offers out there. No one wants to give up anything because they know that the Vikings are likely going to have to cut him anyway. So that's what it may come down to. And that would be an unforced error by Kwesi, because at the start of the official league year back in March, there was a window of 3 days where they could have cut Za'Darius no muss, no fuss before that $5.05 million became guaranteed. Now, it could be a spot where Kwesi thought that they could trade him, and then ultimately they couldn't find a market and things weren't going to work out, so they just have to eat that $5.05 million. It would suck. It would be a little bit embarrassing for Kwesi, but also it would save the Vikings $8.77 million. And also TBD if there's offset language where the $5.05 million, the Vikings would be on the hook if he didn't play, but if he signs up with another team and say signs a new contract for $6 million, does that offset against what the Vikings guaranteed Za'Darius? Who knows? Who knows at this point? But yeah, the Vikings are set up pretty well at edge, bringing Marcus Davenport the 1 year, $13 million, as well as making Andre Carter the highest paid UDFA in undrafted free agency this offseason. And Andre Carter needs a little bit of polish, needs a little bit of time, but it's ironic because a couple of the scouting reports actually compare his ceiling to Za'Darius Smith coming off the edge. So this is a spot where it is Za'Darius versus Kwesi, and I think, like I said, this is going to be a major test of his leadership. Is he going to be a hardliner with some of these contracts, because that will resonate through the locker room and future contracts and future contract disputes, or will he cave? And that will also have an effect on future situations, but we'll see what happens. I, for one, well, first off, I'd rather keep Daniil for sure, but I mean, if Za'Darius and the Vikings can somehow hug it out and make up, I mean, having just an amazing edge rushing trio of Za'Darius and Daniil and Davenport on the field at the same time, which Flores could do creatively, would be pretty damn sexy. Pretty damn sexy, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. The Za'Darius situationship is a major test for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.